Yeah. Should be audio now. Audio now. Can you hear me? Audio now. Okay. All right. Hit one if you can hear me. Hit 1 if the audio and video is okay. Hit 2 if it's not. The reason why you couldn't hear me is because it was on another microphone and not the one in front of me. So, okay, cool. All right, so I'm gonna let this session run at least 30 minutes, and I'll just chat with you, maybe do some Q&A, whatever the case may be. I just need to make sure that the camera can stream longer than 15 minutes at least, because I think that was the mark that we hit on Friday before it crapped out, right? So this is a brand new camera. This is the MX Brio. It's a $200 plus camera and webcam, and I wanted to use it to replace my older one. My older one was fine, but it didn't have built-in mics. It was very bulky. This one is much smaller, more compact, and this one seems to have a better image sensor. So I don't know if anybody recalls what the previous sessions look like when I had the older camera. Let me know if this one is better. So if it's better, then hit 5. If it's not, then hit 6. Also picked up some new blue blocker shades, but not shades. I mean, you can technically wear them outside because they block UV light too, but I wear these for the most part when I'm using my computer and reading on my tablet, right, to kind of block that blue light that comes forth from it that can cause eye fatigue and disrupt your sleeping cycle and everything. It's really not good. So anybody, if you use computers for extended period of time like I do, because I work in IT, always get you an amber tint blue blocking glasses. Okay, these are from a company called Gunnar, Gunnar, right? So I just bought these. When did I get these? Friday. I got them Friday. And because they're concave, sometimes looking at the ground looks kind of strange in them. But if you look straight ahead, then they do their job. All right. Oh yeah. Yeah, Yaramaya Ban Yasharala. Yeah, that was what was the brother's name, man? What was that Moorish brother's name? I forgot his name. I know exactly who you're talking about. I forgot his name, man. Wow. Time passes. It was 10 years ago. I mean, when 2024, yeah, I was back in 2014. And November 2014, I actually did a lecture called Who Are the Edomites Today? From Esau to Zionism. That video by itself, I think, has 175, 180,000 views, something crazy like that. So aside from the Nick Cannon and Professor Griff video that I have on my channel, which has 2.4 million views, 2.4 million views, it was at 2.3 something about a month ago, and then for some reason there's some resurgence in this Nick Cannon and Professor Griff dialogue, and because my video of it has the most views, it looks like more people shared it. I think it was like 875 shares, something crazy like that. And then I think it went up like 90,000 views in the past 30 days. Really crazy stuff. Really crazy stuff. So, but that also helped with boosting a lot of subscribers for this channel. You know what I'm saying? So it's brought in a lot of people who were unaware of who we are and what we do. And they go to watch that video and they subscribe, and then now they get suggestions for other content on this channel. So all praise to the Most High, man. We use what we can to bring the truth to the masses, man. We do what we got to do. You know what I'm saying? So all praise to the Most High for that. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, you go back, check out the video. Video's almost at 2.5 million views on this channel. That's crazy. But that video I did on who is the Edomites today, from Esau to Zionism, has about 180,000 views. I think it has almost 200,000 views. I haven't checked it in almost a year and a half. But the last time I checked, it had like somewhere between 175 and 180,000 views. So it might have gone up since then. That's one of the most watched videos that I've ever produced on YouTube. It's a classic. You know, I did that 10 years ago. If I was doing the same lecture today, obviously I would have more updated information into it. I probably would remove a few things. But for the most part, about 75% of it I would keep, and 25% of it I would just update it based on the knowledge that I've learned in the past 10 years. You know what I'm saying? No, so these have no magnification. They don't. But what a lot of these do have is that you can get prescription lenses and you can clip them right on here, right? Some of them have the ones you can clip inside, some have the ones you can clip outside, like for shades and stuff like that. So I would get one of the blue blockers where you can clip on subscription lenses, right? But yeah, if you are using a computer for an extended period of time, you need to wear glasses like this, right? All right. So with that being said, I'm glad everything seems to be working out. I had to swap out the cable, put it in a different port, and everything like that. I think I figured out what the issue was. So as long as this lasts past 15 minutes in this session, I think we should be good. Okay. Yes, that was it. Lord Merkel. That was it. Jeremiah. Lord Merkel. That was the brother's name. Wow. I haven't seen that brother in years. I think last time it seems like maybe right before COVID. I think the last time I seen him. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's been a long time. Even that brother Ready for R, you might have seen me on his platform before. Ready for R. I just got back in touch with him this year. That brother, good brother. You know, he's into some other type of spirituality. Yeah, he does. But that was a good brother, man. Really good brother. You know what I'm saying? Had a great platform, but that conscious community, man, just messed his platform up, bro. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes you gotta learn when to back off. Some people don't know when, but you gotta be able to read the temperature of the room. You know what I'm saying? So Jeremiah, as far as clubhouse rooms, there's no particular clubhouse rooms. I go based on the topic. Whatever the topic is and the conversation is really what I join. When I get off of here, I will probably join one. There should be replays. So if you go to Clubhouse, go to Clubhouse and you click on my profile, right? That's my profile on Clubhouse, right? You should be able to scroll up and it'll say my bad. I hit the button at the top. Yeah, this is why I'm testing it out now so I can make all these mistakes now instead of when we officially go live. But yeah, like I said, that if you just scroll like just scroll like this, you'll see where it says chats right there, and then you'll see all the previous rooms that I had joined. Okay. So you should be able to do that. Yeah. So Nazarene Hebrew Institute of Technology. Yes. Let me tell you something, right? The clubhouse rooms that I like to join are the ones where we have people from the conscious community. A lot of times they have some association with the Nuwabians or those off-brand Moorish brothers, you know, the ones that do the white sovereignty and all of that. And they bang on the Bible, right? They say, oh, the Bible, the God of the Bible is a megalomaniac. They say he's maniacal. Then they go in and say that, oh, if you look at the Bible, it teaches about the Anunnaki. So really, Enki is the Most High. Some people say, no, it's Enlil's the Most High. And then they start saying all this stuff about the Bible. Jesus grew up in Egypt, and that's where he learned all his miracles and stuff like that. They start saying all this stuff. And you know, it's the pseudo shit. I'm attracted to the pseudo shit because There's never fails. There's always something new that's brought out in the pseudoship. The other day, I was going back and forth with the Nuwabians and a particular brother by the name of Duswa. Now, if you go on this channel, you'll be able to see a Clubhouse session I had with Duswa. I think it was last year, where we discussed whether or not Jesus grew up in Egypt or not. That was a open and closed shut case. That was easy. That was light work. But we was discussing the last time about was it yesterday? What was he talking about yesterday? Yesterday we was discussing I don't know. We were discussing Egypt. And what the brother was saying was that he was crazy because he started saying that Black people come from extraterrestrials, so we're not from this world. Then he said that extraterrestrials experimented with chimps and other animals to create the white man. And he says that that's why the white man is a different species than the Black man. That's what he was purporting. And at the very same time poking fun at the Bible, right? But he comes up with this weird theory, and then we started going into it, right? And he started talking about the Yahweh of the Bible, and he created the Adamic race. And Adamic race was an experiment, and he felt bad about the experiment, decided to wipe the Adamic race out, but he let them live. He let the remnant live. He didn't really go into that portion of it. Then he was talking about the Anunnaki being involved and all this other stuff. And then I kept taking him back to Kemet. And guess where he was going? Back to the Bible. Yo, I wish that session was recorded, man. That was a legendary session. I was on that thing for 3 hours, man. That was crazy. Going back and forth with him and teaching him about Kemet. His brother didn't know that Unis, because what I was doing was I was showing him, because he was like, oh, it was the extraterrestrials that experimented and created the white man. The white man inherently is violent and he's evil and he's wicked and all this other stuff, right? Some stuff that some of our Israelite brothers say about Esau, right? And then he starts saying stuff like the Yahweh, the Bible, he's the one responsible for all of that. And then I said, okay, so what about Kemet? He said, what about Kemet? I said, did you know that there's a cannibal hymn in Utterance 273 in the pyramid text of who we call Unis, which is the last pharaoh or the last Nasut of the 5th dynasty, and his son Teti, who is the first king or first Nasut of the 6th dynasty. This is in the Old Kingdom period. And I said, yo, did you know they have something called a cannibal hymn? Then I told him, I said, did you know in the first three dynasties in the Old Kingdom, they had what's called retainer sacrifice. And again, we was having a whole discussion, an anthropological discussion about, is man inherently violent? And he was saying that mankind was always vegan. And I'm like, well, show me the data for that. In all the articles that I read about prehistory, mankind has always been an omnivore, right? Now, when we read the text says that his early diet was that of seed-bearing plants and fruits and so forth, right? But then the earliest we can go back outside the Bible, man has always been an omnivore. Matter of fact, I took him back to the Khoisan San peoples, and I showed him that they were hunter-gatherers, and because of them, the rest, according to secular science, right, secular anthropology, right, that they gave rise to everybody that lives there. Their ancestors gave rise to everybody else that lives on the planet because they have the greatest genetic diversity than any other people group on this planet. And when you look at the Khoisan, they don't look like no blue, black, 7 feet tall, quote unquote, African Hamites, right? They don't look nothing like that, right? They light just like me. They have like quote unquote Chinese eyes. People say Chinese eyes. Skin is probably a little yellower than mine. And some of them were pygmy bushmen. That was their ancestors. And they gave rise to Homo sapiens sapiens that you see today. The ones that exist today, they gave rise to them. So I asked them, they're hunter-gatherers. So if they're not violent and they don't eat meat, then why are the earliest humans that we have, and which we go back to genetically, they were hunter-gatherers? He was like, oh, because of certain circumstances, certain situations. So then I brought him back to Kemet, right? And again, I had to teach him about Kemet because for some reason they push Kemetic, culture and everything like that. They call themselves the Sabians, the modern day Sabians, right? Or Sabians, right? But they say that he said the earliest culture comes from Nubia. And I said, okay, that's true. And then he mentions the Meroic text and a Meroic script. I said, look, we don't got no Meroic script in the pre-dynastic Egypt. There's no such thing as a Meroic script. We don't get that to much later when we have the Nubians ruling from the 25th dynasty past the 25th dynasty on, when we get like Shabaka and others, right? So I had to go into it in him and show him about the retainer sacrifice. So the retainer sacrifice is when the king has a royal court, and he has some individuals that like serve him and everything in a royal court. And again, I'm just keeping it layman, right? I can get real technical with it, but I'm gonna keep it layman, right? And if you want to see real technical of this stuff, I've done lecture after lecture after lecture on this, right? Where he's like, yo, I'm about to die, man. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's crazy. We're about to die and all of that. So you know what I'm gonna do? Hey, yo, so-and-so's cool with me. Yo, I want them to come with me. Hey, kill so-and-so, 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 so-and-so. So when I die, they serve me in the afterlife. That's a retainer sacrifice. He said, oh, when we are violent, it's because of our circumstance, or we put in fight or flight or whatever. And I'm like, well, what about retainer sacrifice? And the retainer sacrifice, the king is just killing ninjas because he want them to serve him in the afterlife. Then I had to tell him about the plague of elitism. When you are drunk with absolute power, you abuse that power by abusing others around you. And therefore, you have a higher inclination to be more assertive, aggressive, and violent to assert your dominance and stay in power and control. This is what I was saying to him. And then that's when I went into the retainer sacrifice. Then I said, yo, Kemet, the upper and lower Kemet was formulated out of war. Norma Stella is the earliest artifact that we have of actual administrative hieroglyphics. And that was forged out of war. Within the suit has the head of a Amu, of a Semite, in his hand in a club. That's violent. That's violent. Kemet was very violent. I told him in the first intermediate period, you have the autobiography of Antifi. Antifi said they were eating their babies, yo. That's in his autobiography. I didn't write that. He kept going to the Bible, and I kept going to Kemet. And I'm like, yo, it's interesting where, you claim that we're religious and all, but I keep going back to Kemet, Egyptology, and archaeology, and you keep going back to the Bible. Yo, it was bad. It was bad when you have a Nubian that was trying to, and again, he was like, I have a king's list. He doesn't have a king's list. He doesn't have a timeline where he's looking for Unis. I said, brother, you never been to Kemet before and seen his pyramid at Saqqara? You never seen that before? Ninja couldn't find Unis. Unis is one of the earliest kings we have of the pyramid text, or what they call the Pre-Emheru, or the going forth by day, or the book of the dead. How you not know that? This is crazy. I was just flowing off the top. He was just freestyling. But then I went and pulled out a couple of sources and all of that. You know what I'm saying? But the one interesting thing is I asked him, I said, okay, he kept saying, well, those kings were mixed. The Caucasian was around, the Libyans and Semites, and they started mingling with those kings. I said, Unis was not mingled with no king, with no other ethnic groups. How do we know that? Because you have what's called the Abydos kings list and the Turin kings list. King lists are there to show you the direct bloodline lineage that the king on the suit BT descends from. It's there to show you that. So when I asked him, okay, so who's the pure blood in Kemet? He started saying it's the Ennead. So he believes the Ennead. Well, the Ennead consisted of 9 primordial gods. And he's saying that they were real, which is fascinating because the ancient Egyptians believed they were real too. But archaeologists and experts of the ancient Near East and Egyptologists know that they were not real. They were not real, right? This is part of the mythos and the epics that were created to justify what's called the divine right of the king. If the king can show his bloodline goes back to a god, that's why he can rule and reign and take what he wants. So I said, okay, If you say Unis is mixed, I brought up the Turin's Kings list. Turin's King list starts with the Ennead of gods, and those gods will be Asar, Oset, Heru's in there, Set is in there, right? Geb is in there, Nut is in there, etc. All these deities in there. And then it shows you their descendants all the way up until you get to the 5th dynasty where Unis is at. And I said, yo, his bloodline is pure. You can say whatever you want. We got a primary source showing that his bloodline is pure. It goes back to the ones that you say were indigenous to that land and the ones that was the original bloodline. Cut them. I said, wait, not just that. Let's go to the Abydos Kings list. In the Abydos Kings list, it also shows his lineage going all the way back to the indigenous ancestors of that land, the earliest settlers in that land. If you want to go to the earliest quote unquote Egyptian settlers, you got to go to the Badarian culture to see that. But in the Fayum, where the Fayum Basin is at, you had Semites that was already living there. I'm going to say this. Egyptologists cannot predate the Nubians coming from the south settling there first with no Semites. There was always Semites there. So to say that the Semites were foreigners, how? When they was already settling there by the time the Nubians made their way up or down the Nile River into what we call the Nile Delta region, where Varus is at, which is the biblical Goshen. Semites was always there. He called them invaders and all of that. I say, yo, the Semites was always there, bro. They was always there. The Natufian culture also, we have them as some of the earliest from the Levantine region. But if you go to the Fayum culture, they're all Semites, bro. We have artifacts and everything. Prehistory, pre-dynastic period. So how are they foreigners when they always lived in the Delta region? They always lived in the Delta region. That's why when the Narmer palette comes on the scene, they were fighting Semites that was already there. So even the earliest artifact with hieroglyphic administrative writing to justify the unity of the upper and lower portions of Egypt, you still have Semites in the picture. So anyway, with that said, I thought that was fascinating and I want to bring that out. Do you believe the creation in Genesis 1 is functional? Yes. And if you was part of my classes, which y'all can still sign up for, it's the $50 tier on Patreon. You sign up for the $50 tier, you get access to the classes, and we're going to restart the classes soon, going into the contextual analysis. You'll see that I recommended a book, and the book that I recommended is The World of Genesis 1. And in that book, we go into Bara, and we show how it's more functional, the creation. And what you do is you take existing or pre-existing material, you assign it a function, and you decree it to do something. There's no ex nihilo. Genesis 1 does not teach an ex nihilo creation. And if you want to know what happened prior to that, it's the primordial battle between Yahweh and Leviathan. This is a cosmic motif that exists in almost all the ancient Near Eastern tones. You have Ra and Apep. You have Marduk and Tiamat. And you can go on with these cosmic. You had Baal and Yam. Right? This battle between his patron deity and either a sea dragon monster or the personification of the sea. This motif is everywhere. That's why when you go into Genesis 1, you see the word Tohum. That word is cognate with Tiamat. Same thing, meaning the deep abyss. So what happens is you have to destroy the Leviathan, the sea dragon, to disrupt the chaos. And when the ashes are there from the chaos, then you can form order. This idea of chaos, order, chaos, order, chaos, order, all the way into the end of time. When you see the book of Revelation, it's nothing but chaos until you get to the end. Now you have order, structure, and you have peace. Just saying. So it was crazy to me. It's crazy when these individuals think they're so conscious that they're deeper than the Bible, and then they start to say the Bible teaches astrology. I was like, yo, are you aware that we have astrological texts, cuneiform texts? Because remember, astrology begins at Babylon. Ancient Babylon is the seat of the provenance of modern day astrology. Babylon. Sign up for the Patreon, www.patreon.com/DivineProspect. And in Patreon, I have several books that deal with astrology and where astrology came from. People can't delineate we have all types of astrology. You have omen astrology, you have horoscopic astrology. There's at least 6 or 7 different types of astrology. If you want to go see cuneiform astrology, you got to look at the astrolabes. The astrolabes are texts, and they were part of omen astrology, where they looked at the stars to determine nuances in the sky. And those nuances, again, were omens, and those omens were interpreted, and they were related to events that was happening amongst human affairs. So they would tell the king, hey, you should not go to war next month, because according to the alignment of the stars, something's going to happen. Or, hey, king, there's about to be a famine. You need to go do A, B, and C for that famine. That's how it worked. Thank you for that, my brother Desmond. I recommend anything you can get your hands on from John H. Walton if you're trying to familiarize yourself with the culture of the ancient Near East. I could not have said it better myself. If you want to know my position in regards to the book of Genesis chapter 1, you have to get The Lost World of Genesis 1 by John Walton. All right? Okay. All right. I know y'all want the classes. I want the classes too, brother. I'm just going to settle in. I just started a new work contract, so I got to get settled in. And I'm trying to work on this thing for the past couple of months, and I finally got the work contract. So all praises to the Most High. So I've been grinding. I'm going to grind out until next year after these quote unquote holidays. When these holidays are over, going into January, I should be returning back to Houston. I may not be in Houston. My brother Desmond is there. And I don't know if my executive administrator had conveyed the information over to your team yet, Desmond. But we may not be in Houston this December coming up. It has to wait into January because I had to check on my dad last weekend before last, not this past weekend before last. I had to go to South Jersey, check on my dad because he was hospitalized. And then now we're concerned about his health going forward. So I may have to make another trip to go see him. So it's really unpredictable. So that's why I wanted to wait at least until the end of the quote unquote holidays to kind of see how that fares out with him, how things shake out in regards to my work schedule. And then I should be choosing probably the second or third week in January. I'm probably going to do it that Martin Luther King weekend, which I think is the second weekend in January. We'll be back in Houston, y'all willing, if all works well. And then when we come back from Houston, that's when we're going to restart the classes. And then that's where we're going to continue on with the rest of our chapter launches. So people want us to come to Kansas City. People want us to come to Columbus, Ohio. We looking forward to going to Toronto, to London in UK, and to Miami. Right? Those are the ones that we already had written down. But we can add 2 more. We can do maybe up to 4 or 5, no more than 5, and then we got to wait for the following year because it takes a lot to do these chapter launches. Right? They're not easy. It takes a lot, especially when everything is free. We're paying for everything, food, location, everything is costly, And then when we do our brunch or our dinners, we pay for everything. You know what I'm saying? So it's very expensive to do these chapter launches. And we have to make sure that the places that we go to has a substantial amount of our people there. So that way different roles can be assigned and we can get the work done. Right. So I'll be back in Houston soon. When I come back, we're going to have another event because I'm going to do another lecture out in Houston. And then when that's done, then we're going to start mobilizing our Houston chapter. right? And we're gonna make sure that's done before we move on to the next chapter. All praises to the Most High. All right. All right. So again, this is just an audio-visual test. We've hit the 30-minute mark and nothing happened to the camera. All praise to the Most High Yah. I resolved the issue, and it looks like we are good. Let me give a couple of shout outs before dipping out, and I'll probably answer another question. Let's see what we got going on. Shout out to Feed the Spirit, Yam Yaban Yasharala, Apothecary Custom, Get Wise, Shalom J, Talmud the Commando, Shalom, Feed the Spirit, Shalom, J, Shalom, I think I said J already, RP, Shalom, Mr. Jeshuran, 144, Shalom, Nazarene Hebrew Institute of Technology, Shalom, my brother Cheatham, Oakway, Shalom. Let's see, who else we got up in here? AJ Bethea, Shalom. Blind Jedi, Shalom. Brother, we have to travel to the UN in Africa to be grandfathered into the decade of African descent. Are you asking, do we have to travel? No. So if you watch the lecture, which is on the channel that I did, you have to have your organization. I don't know if you have a non-for-profit or whatever, but you should have a non-for-profit, and you have to get signed up and registered with EcoSoc. EcoSoc is who's going to give you the connection, so that once you're grandfathered in with EcoSoc, then you work with the council or the people. It's a group that they have that is over the program going forward. So the program is not going to be universal anymore. They're going to relegate it to the Office of the High Council of Human Rights, and they have a sub council there that are the people that are over the program going forward. So EcoSoc and linking up with that group. And when you do that, that is when you can leverage those two connections in order to take what the program is initiated and apply it in your community, right? So again, if you go back and you watch the lecture, it's on the channel. If you go back and watch the lecture, you'll see where I share all that information. So go back and check out the lecture, the one that we did back in March. Go back and check it out. It's on the channel. All right. Shout out to Whitney Mack, Shalom sis. GMO Yashar Banyamyan, Shalom. Work hard, grind, Shalom. Ariel, Shalom. Who else we got? Nasika Bina, Shalom. AZ Bound 3, Shalom. All right. So wait, what? So Work Hard Grind said, did you run around in church when you used to go? I did it one time. Actually, that one time I did it is actually on YouTube. But I'm not going to tell you where to go get it. Those who know, they know. And you'll see I ran around the church one time when I was doing a sermon. It was before I started the sermon. I ran around the church. But prior to that sermon, no, I didn't run around the church. No. I did speak in tongues. I didn't have enough rhythm to shout, that dancing type of stuff they did. I did one that was a little unorthodox. I did have one that was a little unorthodox, you know what I'm saying? But I wasn't running around the church. I wasn't doing all of that. But I was speaking in tongues. I did have a little shout, but I didn't have enough rhythm to really be really fashionable and stylistic with it. If that's what you're saying. So I wonder why you're asking that. I was in the delusion of Christianity at that time. And I'm not saying Christianity itself is delusional. The form of Christianity that I was in was highly delusional. So when you come out the delusion and you realize this is not what it's about. Yes, Ariel, that's it. Hold on. Let me go grab it real quick. Okay. So this is it right here. The Lost World of Genesis 1 by John H. Walton, Ancient Cosmology and the Origins Debate. Then we have The Lost World of the Flood by Tremper Longman III and John H. Walton, Mythology, Theology, and the Deluge Debate. Then we have The Lost World of the Israelite Conquests, Covenant, Retribution, and the Fate of the Canaanites by John H. Walton and J. Harvey Walton. And then we have The Lost World of the Prophets, Old Testament Prophecy and Apocalyptic Literature in Ancient Context by John H. Walton. Those are the books. These are some of my favorite reads. If you go online, John H. Walton also have lectures where he talks about cultural rivers, right? So go look up all his lectures, get all his books, because this is one of the few, and I say few meaning I can't count on both hands, scholars that have actually reshaped my worldview. And he's a Christian. He's a Christian. Another person I helped with the same thing is Michael Heiser. And you've heard a lot about Michael Heiser. Another person that also reshaped things is T. Maroka and Emmanuel Tove, right? These are all scholars in this field, whether it's linguistics, archaeology, etc. Eric Klein is another one, right? That have shaped my worldview, because I'm like, yo, I wish I would have known this stuff when I was a Christian, right? But then again, it wasn't for me to learn it at that time. It was when I was on the opposite side, the adverse side, that I actually learned this stuff, right? And it was beneficial. So they're individual books. They're all individual books and they're all standalone books, but it's also a series called The Lost World. So it's part of a series, but each book is an individual book, right? Which means it's not codependent on a previous book and a following book, right? So it's the Lost World series, and I'm missing one. I can't find there's 5 of them. I can't find the 5th one, and I think there's a new one coming out too, as well. All right. All right, let me see. So Yamin and Guafu, hopefully I'm saying your name right. Would you consider Matthew 23, 37 to 39 a stipulation for Moshiach's return? And would you consider modern rabbis as those to make that profession? All right, you said Matthew 23, 37. Let's go there. All right. Matthew 23 and 37. And it says, "O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stone those who are sent to it. How often would I have gathered your children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you were not willing? See, your house is left to you desolate. For I tell you, you will not see me again until you say, 'Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord.'" Right? So we'll move the other way. So your question is, would you consider Matthew 23, 37, 39 a stipulation for Mashiach's return? So when you say a stipulation, well, according to what he's saying here, that seems like it in verse 39, right? And you said, would you consider modern rabbis as those to make that profession? Make the profession of what? Which profession? Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, that one? Let me know. Yep, learn a lot. That's one of my favorite books right there as well. It's very innovative when it came out. And yeah, if you really want to know what happened, because that's another thing that scholars still hotly debate today, is the transition between the Bronze to the Iron Age. Very fascinating, right? So you got to give me a little more insight on this, Yamin. So in Matthew chapter 23 and verse 37, right? We see some of this happen in the Tanakh. However, the influence from this comes from a book called The Lives of the Prophets, right? Let me get that book for you. Again, it's on the Patreon. Sign up for the Patreon. All the books I reference is on the Patreon. Anyway, so let me go ahead and get The Lives of the Prophets. All right. And let me share my screen. All right. So this is called The Lives of the Prophets. This version is from 1946 from the SBL, the Society of Biblical Literature, right? And it says, for some years, the Society of Biblical Literature and Exegesis has debated the plan to publish a series of monographs dealing with the results of biblical research, while the need for such a medium for the publication of selected doctoral dissertations and investigations of mature scholars have never been questioned. The obstacles faced in an enterprise seems insurmountable. Let me skip past that. That's just a note from the editor. Let's go down. Here's the preface. Let's go here, right? The ancient Jewish traditions here published have not been as well known as they deserve to be. Eberhard Nessel, in his Marginalien und Materialien, a work to which constant reference will be made in the following pages, spoke of the neglect of this little collection of legends during more than a century and a half. This was in 1893. The half century which has elapsed since that date has seen a most important advance in the scientific study of the lives, a gain which is largely the fruit of Nestle's own labors, but is chiefly embodied in Theodore Scherman's admirable collection and presentation of the extant material. All the hard work preliminary to an edition of the Greek text was thus accomplished. The original document was not Greek, however, but Semitic. The translation idiom is unmistakable to the expert in Semitics who has gained familiarity with this variety of Greek. The task therefore remained of criticizing the text from the Semitic side with such occasional use of conjecture as is indispensable in the absence of the original. For no Greek translation is without its errors, which are more or less obvious to the well-equipped interpreter. The original language in this case is easily seen to have been Hebrew, and the recognition of this fact shows the way to that form of the extant Greek, which most nearly represents the translator's own achievement. The document which emerges is a characteristic deposit of old Jewish folklore, first published in Palestine in the Hebrew language in the first century of the present era. What is here presented is a Greek text which is believed to be the oldest form now attainable, with such slight emendation as is absolutely necessary, and with the critical and explanatory notes which are required. The appended translation with its annotations will probably be welcome, for no English version of these legends have been available. At all events, with the appearance of the present edition, the lives can take its legitimate place for the first time as a regular member of the Old Testament Apocrypha, right? Very deep, heavy stuff, right? The title Lives of the Prophets, by which this work is known, could be misleading, for it is by no means a series of biographies, but rather a collection of extra biblical Jewish traditions concerning the history and the activities of these famous men. In a few cases, the new material may cover 2 or 3 pages, while in others, 2 or 3 sentences will suffice. A uniform pattern is followed throughout, as appears in the superscription, which in varying form is prefixed to each of the chief recessions, the names of the prophets, whence they were, where they died, and how and where they were buried. In one case, at least, that of the prophet Joel, the scheme is followed in the briefest possible terms with no other word regarding him. It has therefore sometimes been suggested that the chief interest of the author of this compilation may have been in the localities that are named. Sacred sites are a great asset to any land. The shrines or tombs of saints and heroes have always been venerated. Palestine has good reason to cherish such memorials, and pilgrims to the Holy Land were eager to seek them out. This motive was present, no doubt, in the author's plan, but it does not appear to have played an important part. The localities are named, and cities and towns are given the coveted honor in a manner which suggests a literary routine rather than the attempt to give useful information. The fragmentary material, so uneven in extent and character, was held together and given unity by this framework of necessary detail. The main fact to be observed in all these lives is that they are supplementary to the accounts given in the canonical scriptures. Perfect familiarity with the Bible is taken for granted, and there is no intention of repeating what has already been recorded. Jeremiah's career in Jerusalem, for example, is well known, so our compiler turns at once to his activities in Egypt. The wonderful deeds of Daniel in Babylon have no mention. His chapter deals chiefly and at considerable length with the popular notions in regard to the transformation of Nebuchadnezzar. When Jonah's turn comes, the whale and Nineveh were put aside, and his biography is filled out with the traditions concerning his life and the region of Tyre and Sidon, with his mother who entertained Elijah, and with the account of his subsequent journeyings and his burial in the tomb of Othniel. The folk tales about Habakkuk, Nathan, the dire consequences of the murder of Zechariah ben Jehoiada, etc., also stand quite outside the canonical tradition. Biographies made up from the Old Testament narratives, and there are such in certain editions of the Lives, are under the suspicion of being a secondary element in this compilation. Accounts of the Hebrew prophets are a multitude, as would be expected, and this most ancient collection of the Lives exists in several different recensions. Of these, the most familiar is one which appears in the works of Epiphanius, Bishop of Salamis in Cyprus, 4th century, and in the earlier time, he was very commonly believed to have been its author, right? The Epiphanius version exists in two distinct forms, the one briefer than the other, right? And so on and so on. It keeps going on and on about the history of this text, etc. But what you'll find is that when you read this text, and then from this text you go, let me show you. From this text, you go to Hebrews. You go to Hebrews 11 and you scroll down. And you read all of this, where it says, "And what more shall I say? For time would fail me to tell of Gideon, Barak, Samson, Jephthah, of David and Samuel and the prophets, who through faith conquered kingdoms, enforced justice, obtained promises, stopped the mouths of lions, quenched the power of fire, escaped the edge of the sword, were made strong out of weakness, became mighty in war, performing armies to flight. Women received back their dead by resurrection. Some were tortured, refusing to accept release so that they may rise again to a better life. Others suffered mocking and flogging, and even chains and imprisonment. They were stoned. They were sawn in two. They were killed with the sword. They went about in skins of sheep and goats, destitute, afflicted, mistreated, of whom the world was not worthy, wandering about in deserts and mountains and in dens and caves of the earth." If you read the lives of the prophets, you will see where Hebrews 11 draws its influence from. It draws it from the Hebrew version that predated the Greek version. That's where its influence comes from. So when we read in Matthew chapter 23, verse 37, when he's talking about Jerusalem and how they killed the prophets and so forth, again, that knowledge goes back to the Tanakh and more specifically in detail in the lives of the prophets. Right? All right. So that's just me reading. I'm done with reading. Right? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Learn a lot. You know your stuff, brother. Thank you for sharing that in the chat. Yep. Van de Toorn is a scholar that speaks of the Israel going into Africa, diaspora, and Jews. Is the book, I think. But matter of fact, let me see, because I think I have that. Let me pull that book up. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. So one of the books he has that I have is called Becoming Diaspora Jews. Is that the one you referencing, brother? That's the one that I have here. If y'all are interested in that, I will put that book on the Patreon and y'all can get a hold of it. All right. One of my favorite joints. So I'll put this on the Patreon right after this session. All right. In case anybody's interested in it. All right. So to answer this question, in regards to Matthew, let's go back to Matthew 23 real quick. Matthew 23 and 37. Again, this cry of, O Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to it. How often would I have gathered your children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you were not willing? So now when he's saying this, he's referring to how the Most High intended to gather Israel sooner if they just obeyed the prophets. The Nevi'im are never respected. They're always disrespected, stoned, killed, flogged, excommunicated. And because of such, he says in verse 38, see, your house is left to you desolate. That means you are despoiled by your oppressor, because he would have gathered them and reformulated them into a nation yet again. But because he sends the prophets to them and they kill the prophets, their house is left desolate. And that's what he says, for I tell you, will not see me again, which means that he also will fall victim as a prophet to be killed at the hands of the people, more particularly the religious leaders of the day. And he says this all throughout Matthew, the book of Matthew. He says it's all throughout the text, right? So this is what he's saying. So with that being said, hey, shalom, Mama Rika. Long time since I seen you. Good to see you still around. Thank you for joining us. Shout out to James Lockhart in the building. Shout out to Learn a Lot, who's sharing a lot of information. Shalom to Family Still Matters. Panther De Noir. Shalom. Let me see. Anybody else I missed? Did I get everybody? I think I got everybody. Okay. All right. So remember, this was not supposed to be an official live. It was just an audio-visual test. If y'all want me to keep this up, just let me know. I'll keep it up. Otherwise, I'll delete it, because again, I think that we passed the test. And then when we go into our next live this Friday, I'll be going live again, Freestyle Friday. We can get it in. All right. So hopefully, I began to answer this question. I like to begin to answer questions, because my job is just to put you on the right path. I'm not there to hold your hand. You got to do the work yourself. I'll give you the tools. I'll give you the methods. I'll give you the direction, and I'll put you on the path, but it's up to you to go from there. And hopefully when you get further enough, you can pioneer a new path and you can take me along to that new path. But before you can pioneer a new path, you must go back to the ancient paths. Once you orient yourself to the ancient paths and you understand the direction you're supposed to go, that will set you forth on the right path. That's the compass that we use to know which direction to go. All right. All right. So with that being said, family, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you for helping me out with this audio-visual session. The webcam seems to be working like I intended for it to be. Shout out to Simply Saved in the building. Shalom. Oh yeah, brother. You going down the rabbit hole. That rabbit hole is deep. Yes, sir. And I told you, compare it with the Greek text. Fascinating stuff. So anyway, all praise to the Most High. Thank y'all for your time. I appreciate it. I'll see you again on Freestyle Friday. Again, you can support this ministry by signing up to the Patreon, because you get an immediate return on your investment. We have tons of books, articles, videos, exclusive, not seen on here, my academic blogs, site access to sites that you have to pay for, Bible study software. Everything is on the Patreon. Okay, so when you first go to the Patreon, there's a pinned post that shows you all these exclusive DVD videos and everything that we have on there that you won't get anywhere else. And it's the best way to support this ministry. All right. Or you can give also to the ministry. You'll see all of that going across your screen as well. And if there's anything that we can do to serve you better and help you out, email us at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com. And again, you'll see that scrolling along the bottom of the screen. All right, y'all. So yeah, on your way out, make sure you hit the thumbs up button. Make sure you hit subscribe on your way out. If you're brand new, go back to the archives, check out the old videos. We have tons of content. Go check out the playlist as well and get educated and empowered. All right. All right. So let me address this real quick. Get Why says, are you teaching how to learn Hebrew? Now, I taught Hebrew classes back in 2018 and 2019. I taught beginner to intermediate Hebrew classes at that time. I don't teach Hebrew classes anymore, but I do incorporate Hebrew grammar into our classes. So those of you who are part of our classes, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I also provide coaching, beginner to intermediate Hebrew coaching. So if you want a coaching session, you can click on the link down below. I think I have it in the description. If not, I'll just add it to the description. But book an appointment for us to do a one-on-one. And from there, if you want a Hebrew coaching session, I'll be more than happy to assist you with it. All right. If anybody's interested, I'll be more than happy. Right. And also, with that said, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna put this out there. All right. And watch what I say this. When I've been on Clubhouse for the past couple of years, I think it's over 3 years I've been on Clubhouse. Right. I bumped into a lot of people who are taking advantage of the ignorance of others, and in taking advantage of the ignorance of others, or bleeding out the flock. And so I want to let y'all know that if there's a guru, whether it's a health guru or whatever, whether it's a moray, whether it's a pastor, whoever, and they are fleecing and bleeding the flock out, that means they already are charging you for things that they're offering you, whether it's some kind of vial or whether it's some kind of course or whatever. And then they're going beyond that to fleece you some more, because most of them don't work and they rely on your generous donations to survive. Be wary. Okay? Be wary of those individuals that do so. So me in particular, I work. And the reason why I work so many contracts and so forth is so that I don't fleece or bleed the flock. The donation that's given to this channel helps sustain the cost behind this channel, the events that we do, the work we do in the community, the funds we've given to people in times where, like during COVID, where people weren't getting their checks, we were giving money out. We was providing for the people. We create services and programs that service the community. You can see where our donations go, right? And because I work, I don't have to do this to sustain myself or my family. I don't have to do this to make money. I work hard every day to earn my keep. And when I come on here, I'm not tempted to fleece or bleed the flock. So one thing that I do here, and why I am not liked in this conscious community, this Israelite community, I teach you how to learn for yourself. I teach you how to measure against that which is taught to see if it's true or false. I give you the tools and the methods to teach yourself. And I do that because I have nothing to lose in doing that. I don't have nothing to lose to do that. And I care about the people enough to say what I'm saying. Okay? And there's too many names to name. So I'm not going to name every name. What I'm showing you is, or what I'm telling you, demonstrating, is letting you know the signs to look for. If this person or these people, whoever these individuals are, and I see a lot in this so-called health community, because we have a program called Naturopath to Eden, and we provide you free consultations to teach you how to take care of yourself. But if you want more, then we offer a service, a paid service, but we give you a free consultation, point you in the direction of what you need to do to get back on depending on what your condition is, to get back on the path of good health, right? Or whether it's a pastor or a moray, I meet them all the time on Clubhouse. I meet them in person when I go to city, and they're already charging you. They're already asking you for donations. They're already charging you for classes and courses. But then they come behind that and ask for more money for miscellaneous reasons or whatever the case may be. And they try to get in your good graces to get these things from you. Do not fall victim to that. Make sure they earn everything that you give to them, and ask them, once you donate it, where's this going towards? Because if it's only going towards personal matters, if it's only going towards them funding their lifestyle, if it only go towards a supplement for them not having to work, and there's nothing that's produced out of that that you can immediately benefit from, because we have over 8 programs in KHM that the people funded. 8 services, 2 programs, 8 services that the people funded. We do our chapter launches for free that the people fund. We give free food out for free. We give money out. We pay bills, rent, all of that for people. You have to know how to manage your funds. You have to know how to make it work for you. And a lot of leaders, because they're spoiled by the flock, they forget what it means to take care of themselves in the absence of the flock. If Yah has to sit you down for whatever reason, or whatever the God or whatever they believe their God is, had to sit you down for a reason, and you are severed from the flock, how will you survive? Are you prepared? You're overly reliant and codependent on the flock. And after a while, the flock will realize that you're a hireling and you're not the shepherd. I'm just saying. I believe that every man that's watching this, if you are capable and able-bodied, you should be physically working, doing something to provide for yourself, your household, and your community. If you don't know how to do that, you can book a session with us and we can show you how to get started. And I had people ask me, Divine, can you do mentorship classes? Yes, because a lot of our men out there don't know how to be men. I actually did a lecture, what was this, 2015, called Man Up. And I got that from Job chapter 38. And then I have all these counseling sessions because I'm a licensed minister, right? And I have official and formal counseling sessions. And I don't do them as much as I used to because they're very draining, very taxing on me to kind of take people's burdens and bear it for them. It's a lot. It's a lot of work doing leadership and ministry off screen, right? But with that being said, I realize that a lot of our men don't have the proper guidance, especially coming into the truth or being in the truth for a long time. There are some things that they miss the mark on. So my goal is that we have strong men, and it begins first by having a good work ethic where you can be self-sufficient so others can learn to depend on you if need be. You can provide for all those around you. Not only provide, but teach those around you how to provide for themselves. You have to have a good example that you are showcasing so that others will be able to follow. This is a strong leader. This is highly desirable trait when you can do this thing. This makes you a gargantuan giant amongst others who are perpetrating a fraud and a facade. So I'm telling you right now, do not be gullible. If you go on these Clubhouse sessions, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. I call this out all the time because whoever's on there be saying stuff about me, so I just get really to the truth. Do not be gullible. This is why this ministry exists, because we have the teaching portion and the community portion. In the teaching portion, I'm going to teach you how to learn for yourself. I'm going to give you all the resources, the tools, and the methods necessary to sift through the BS and find the answer yourself. I don't want to give you the answer. I don't be the one to say, oh, I'm going to go to Divine and get an answer. You could do that if you want. That's fine. But everything I do is to provoke you to think critically, to analyze, to evaluate, and be able to apply the knowledge. That's why this upcoming lecture that I'm doing about the serpent in the garden is so you can dismantle the misinformation of white supremacy. That's how serious it is. The serpent seed doctrine fueled and empowered white supremacy. The stuff we do here is bigger than what some of y'all think. It's wider than the narrow-mindedness and linear way of thinking that a lot of y'all think. This is a bigger picture. This is why this root information is important. Because once you learn it, you can aptly apply it and yield immediate results. This is serious. So as a man, have a foundation. Do you understand? Have a foundation. Be a provider. Don't be a beggar. Because sometimes you may have to beg. You may have that season or period of time where you may have to ask for something. But if you ask for it, make sure that you're willing to earn it behind it. If I ask somebody for $100, say, look, brother, I'm having hard times, man. Can I borrow $100? And once I borrow for you, please tell me an opportunity where I can work it off. In the event I can't pay it back. See, I only give that which I'm willing, what I'm able to lose. So I don't have to count it or charge somebody for it. I don't have to say, oh, I want my money back, or, I'm going to charge you interest. No, I gave it because I have it to give. Y'all gave me a surplus, and I give out of that surplus. But as a man, I feel guilty if I ask another man for something and I have not earned it. I have not worked for it. So I ask for the opportunity. If I can't pay it back, which is always my intention, I want to work for it to earn it. That's why when we normally give to people who ask, they come back the second time, we sit them down. Say, okay, look, we're not going to give you no more until we figure out what's going on. Why are you coming back a second time asking for this again? What are some areas we need to tune up in your life so we can get you back on the right track? Because at some point, the way you pay us back is by paying for it. And if you don't structure your life in a way where you can pay what we gave you forward, then we don't want to fund whatever it is you're doing. We're not just going to be giving money to irresponsible people when it can go to responsible people who are having a hard time. So as a leader, make sure you can provide for yourself independent of whatever you're teaching online, on Clubhouse, or whatever else you do. Make sure you can do that, because I'm telling you, at some point, the issue is going to hit the fan and people are going to see that you're fleecing and bleeding the flock. And when that happens, you're going to regret everything. But guess what? All that means is that you take a moment to stand back, recuperate, get yourself together, and come back stronger. It's not meant to defeat you permanently and forever. It's allowed you to sit back and say, whoa, let me restructure myself as a man and get back into provider mode. Let me do that. So that's why ever since I started this ministry in 2014, I've worked and labored hard and thoroughly for 10 years, independent of this. So hard, in fact, that's why sometimes y'all don't see me live, because I'm taking care of personal matters. I'm doing counseling. I'm doing KHM business off screen. I'm working my multiple jobs and doing certain things because I have to be a dependable provider. I have employees, people that I take care of, people that I feed and put money in their pockets, people that I teach how to be independent, is self-sufficient. So mentorship wise, if y'all want those classes, we can do them. We created groups where we have Ima Tabat and Abba Taben. These are mentorship programs where the elders in the community who have established themselves through experience over time are able to pour into those who are much younger than them. We create groups like this for a reason. So you can learn this self-sufficiency. You can know your role and shut your mouth, because you ain't got to say much when you're in your place. Your position will speak for itself. Your works will speak for itself. And that's important. So I wanted to take time out to share that real quick before we close out. Thank you, my brother, Get Wise, for the super sticker donation. I appreciate that. And with that being said, family, I appreciate your work hard grind. Please join us on our Friday, Freestyle Friday session. Bring that question up. I seen you acted the last Freestyle Friday, but I didn't have a chance to answer it. Again, this session was just to test the microphone and the camera, which everything seems to be working now. Praise the Most High. So we can get busy this Friday. All right. So with that being said, thank you all for your time. I appreciate your shout out to Yakal Ibad in the building. I see you. Let me see. Anybody else I miss? King David, the Lucid Fire, Shalom. Righteous Wind, Shalom. Yedaya, Sha'ab, Ban, Yasharal, Torah, Shalom. Can you Drake, Jeffrey, Shalom. All right. I think that's everybody. I think I got everybody. Okay, cool. Appreciate y'all for spending your time with me. Thank you so much. Hopefully something that was said was beneficial to you and helped you to grow. And if there's anything we can do as a ministry to supply you with goods, services, programs, or products to better enhance your life and your walk in this movement, or if there's a lecture or information we could teach or share to improve your lifestyle and your livelihood as you're walking this walk, let us know. Email us at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com, and you can support us in all the channels that you see below. All right. Shout out to JH in the building. I see you. All right. Much love, family. Look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you for joining us. Peace and shalom.